Welcome to Debate Week, ladies and gentlemen. This is the third installment of my TNA booking going in 2016. I did the first booking, which was to talk about Awesome Kong. The second booking for 2016, part 2, was to elaborate a little bit more about how Awesome Kong would retain and go into 2016, and also throwing the King of the Mountain title in with Robert Roode and Matt Morgan. This is the third one, and I'm going into it with the thought of who would be the best people to face the Wolves. Now, there are no tag teams. There just isn't. There's no one there. But these are the people I would believe would be the best to work with the Wolves and eventually get the title. Tyrus and the Abyss is the first tag team I would make. For the simple reason they're two big-ass guys. Even if they don't perform very well in the ring, they're big-ass guys. They would scare people saying that we are the best. The national disasters. That's what I would think of. You know? The next one would be Kenny King and would be Tigre Uno. They're both good guys. I believe Tigre Uno would be best to work with Kenny King for the simple reason he's very energetic. He's much smaller than him. And basically Kenny King could form around the ring. Kind of like what's going on with the Lucha Dragons between Kalisto and Sin Cara. That would be the best thing to do. A lot of times if you have a very tall, well-built guy compared to a smaller guy, you can have something done. The third team, and this is a team I would focus on, this would be Zema Ion and Manic. Now the reason I would team these guys up together is because they're Filipino wrestlers. And I believe Zema Ion's half Filipino. And TJ Perkins is a pure-blooded Filipino. Taking away from if they're mixed breed or not, they're both Filipino wrestlers. When the hell do you hear anything about the Filipino wrestlers? You hear about Mexican wrestlers, all the pride of Mexico. You hear about the pride of Japan. You hear the pride of black people. And to a point, white. But when the hell do you give love to the Filipino wrestlers? So I would do a program with these two together and try to base it on the Nation of Domination. Give it to in disrespect. I would temporarily team the guys of Aiden O'Shea and Muhammad Shira. They don't like each other, but they're forced to be teamed together by a Kurt Angle. I would say Kurt Angle would be the GM because I felt Kurt Angle was a great GM. He wasn't seen all the time. He was genuine when he botched a lot. That shows that even though he understands the business, he's not really a manager. He's a wrestler acting as a manager, and I like that. I love the cheat sheets he did. So that made me feel really good to see him there, and I would bring him back as that. Then I would team these two guys together, Muhammad Shira as well as Aiden O'Shea. And one day, just before the match, these guys are facing one another saying, I don't want to be near your ass. I hate you. And he says, you're nothing compared to me. As a great Indian wrestler, we are the greatest, we are the best. And Shay says, what the hell did you say? I can't even understand your language. And then he grabs maybe a Manic or a Zema Ion, pulls him over and say, tell me, do you understand what tell me what this guy just said. And I said, what? He said, I understand. Don't you understand what I'm saying? He said, see, I can't understand. You're the same as him. And I say, no, I'm a Filipino wrestler. He said, what? You're worse than him. And that is how it would start. We've had things like this done before with Mexican wrestlers. So why not be done, or can it be done with Filipino wrestlers? This is how you would get angry. Comparing one race to another as the same race. And O'Shea did that. You could say that's a typical white person. I'm not trying to be racist towards white people. It could be the reverse, but I felt that this would be the best way to bring in a Filipino wrestler. For the simple reason that they do this every time with Mexican wrestlers. All the time with Japanese wrestlers. Why not do with a Filipino? It's been done. So going from there, you would have, I would say Zema Ion go to Manic. Because Manic was going to be teamed with Zema Ion. This is what basically Kurt Angle had decided to do. And he says to Manic, dude, you know what they just said to me? One of them just said that we're Indians. He said, what? No, you know we're Filipinos. He said, He couldn't even tell the freaking difference. And Manic gets angry and said, oh, they're going to know the difference because we're going to teach them in the match. And they have that match. And basically, O'Shea and Shera cheat. And that pisses them off even more. They go back to Angle and say, we want a freaking rematch. We want a fair shot at these guys. But Angle says no. He says, I don't want to have this conflict. You guys don't need this. You're bigger than that. So he leaves it alone. But then these guys are teasing them. O'Shea and Shera saying these guys are lesser than both of us. They're nothing but Filipino wrestlers. They don't know nothing. And every week they would build up to this, and then they would have a fight and build up again until I would have these guys fight one another. And in between those, I'd say about 3 to 4 weeks of a build, at least a month's build, because TNA doesn't build, TNA to a certain extent builds a little bit better than WWE. But in between that, I'll have matches between these four guys. Even though this is only temporary between Shera and O'Shea, I would leave it like this for a while. And Manic and Ion just begin to get more and more angry. O'Shea will come out and tease them. And then another time when they have another match, it would be Shera come out and tease them. Eventually, they would feel so angry that when they finally got their match and they win that match, they become a real tag team. And I'm talking about Zima Ion and Manic. And they say in another interview, saying the interview after it was over, that we are the best wrestlers. We're proud Filipino wrestlers. We're one of the best. We are the best. And we're coming after the Wolves. But then the Wolves don't want to deal with them. Because they already got 2 other challenges, which would be the new national disasters, which would be Tyrus and the Abyss. And Kenny King and Tigre Uno. And they're saying, we deserve to do this. We deserve this title shot. They go up against Tigre Uno and Kenny King and beat them a couple of times. But then Kenny King and Tigre Uno beat them back. And then the Wolves will say, you guys are good, but I'm sorry. You still got to wait in line. You have not beaten these guys. So as time goes on, they get more disenfranchised and get so angry, they form the Great Filipino Brigade or something, or Filipino Nation. The Filination. They get so disenfranchised, feeling that nobody gives Filipino wrestlers a shot. And get this, while this is going on, Mandrews will be around. He would just stand around and watch matches. He would say to Kurt Angle, please, give me a match. Let me deal with something. But then Spud would come out and Angle would give Spud the match because Spud is more popular. And Mandrews is getting angrier and angrier. And then Ion and Manic realize they got another partner. So they asked Mandrews to join the Filination. Show that we are just as good as anyone else. And then they finally begin to get somewhere. And they win their opportunity by lockdown. Well, not lockdown, by Genesis. This is happening in November. Maybe last month, October into December, this entire situation happened. Going into January of Genesis, if it was done, I would have these guys go through that. And win the right to finally face the Wolves. And in the middle of that, they would still be dealing with the National Disasters 2.0, which would be the Abyss, and Tyrus, saying that these shrimps don't stand a chance against us. They keep interfering with them wanting to get their match. Because, say by Genesis to get the match, and the new National Disasters destroy their opportunity, they interfere with it. So then they have another program with them to make them even more angrier, to build them more. So by lockdown, they finally get the titles. And this gives us something entirely different. This is what I want. Because I feel that Filipino wrestlers are not seen often. Manic and Zima are not seen much. Manic is a much stronger character than Zima Ion in the last couple of months because he's been through the revolution. And Zima Ion, even though is not as strong, he was with the bromance and he's well known. So I believe even though Manic has had more time than Zima Ion in a sense, Zima Ion is basically the boss of the entire thing because people like him more because this is what's going on. Manic isn't as loved as Zima Ion. He just isn't. So that's how we build this. But this is just my point of view. Tell me yours. So I hope you enjoyed this debate of the week. Please give me a comment below. The next debate of the week will be on the X Division and who I would bring back, who I would either bring back, who I would use, and who would be champ by lockdown. Have a good day and have a good night. Peace out!